Hi all, welcome back to Sunshine City Show. Max, your host. Well, here we are. I'm going to discuss something you probably don't know anything about. Nobody really knows Helen Clark, New Zealander. She's representing the World Health Organization. I'm going to get to the nits of this and then explain who she is and explain who the other person is. So there's two people leading investigation of World Health Organization. Yeah! We're going to get some answers, right? We're going to get some answers. World Health Organization said that disease passed from person to person. They didn't tell us about the corona planes. We used to call them the corona planes. Don't go on the corona planes. Well, you know, do you think anyone listened? World Health Organization. New Zealand listened to World Health Organization. They wouldn't listen to anybody else. Nobody knew. Doctors knew nothing. Nobody knew anything. You know, in China, they were just like, ooh, people just falling like dominoes. And, whoa. So now we're going to investigate this, right? We're going to investigate Wuhan, the lab. We're going to get the answers that we need. The answers. But we have Helen Clark, leader of New Zealand, gave United Nations, down the toilet, flushed it down the toilet. Not a worry. A woman, you can't fault women, you know. These days, you have to fault women because when they do wrong, you don't let it just carry on. And she was the leader of New Zealand. We didn't quite know how to. We had Muldoon. We called him Piggy Muldoon, and then Helen Clark came along. We didn't know what to do. What do we call her? And someone, cartoonist, put up a picture of a Clark bird, that kind of thing. And that was kind of funny, but we still didn't know what to call her. You know, we had all our leaders had nicknames, but we didn't know what to call her because she was a woman and leader of the country from 1999 to 2008. So that's 9 years of being under this. So it started out good, you know, helping poverty, that kind of thing. In 2008, Mr. John Key, George Sorrow's man, came along, and the future leader of New Zealand came along and said, we'll push all this stuff through. We'll be the world order. New Zealand's going to lead the world order for the world. We're going to be amazing. So they passed through the free trade with China, first Western country to do it. And then they passed all the United Nations laws through. So United Nations runs New Zealand now. We don't need to run this country, but you know, carry on, New Zealanders, keep paying your taxes, everything else, because now we're coming under United Nations. See the problem? So we got two governments. Why do we need you now? Because you don't even want to rule us. You've given us away. Well, she gave us away and then she landed a job in United Nations. Now, she's teaming up to head this investigation on World Health Organization. So you think, okay, who's the other person, right? Well, she's from Liberia. Her name is Ellen Sirleaf. Ellen Sirleaf. Now, she's been accused of corruption, but she got away with it, you know, as they all do in Africa. And she was there for a long period of time, 2006 to 2018. 12 years of corruption. Isn't that beauty? They do say that one thing about the African continent. Try and find somebody in there, they have an award. And they said they couldn't give it to anybody because everyone was corrupt there. Well, this woman's going to head the investigation with Helen Clark. What can go wrong, you know? So you think, well, what are we going to investigate, guys? Are you going to investigate Wuhan, where the lab? No. She said we're going to investigate, gosh, I got it written down here. They're not investigating anything. They're going to look at global response to COVID. But aren't you investigating World Health Organization and corruption and Bill Gates? Bill Gates, the second biggest funder of next to USA. USA pulled out of World Health Organization. You know, World Health Organization are bad dudes. They were telling the world wrong. So on New Zealand, John Campbell, presenter, John Campbell, He's an English sort of announcer, been in New Zealand a long time, but he still has this English accent, worse than I've seen of anybody. But he has this terrible, terrible English rich boy accent, and he's not that young. Well, he's interviewing her, and he says, you know, those USA, oh, Trump, you know, how are you going to deal with USA and Trump? This is our news. Our news presenter, he's meant to be presenting pros and cons of arguments, that kind of thing. He says, what are you going to do about Trump, this madness of them pulling out of the World Health Organization? How are you going to deal with them? She says, no worries, we're going to go through CDC, disease control. So apparently, the people in the World Health Organization all work in CDC as well. So Trump was saying, well, we need to send the statistics to CDC, because where they were being sent to before, I don't know where it was, the stats were being fiddled because they wanted federal funding. You know, New York wanted federal funding, so they were fiddling the stats. And, you know, if you died, someone was saying, you know, you can get shot and die of COVID, you know. These things happen. Of course, they have to tie the results down a bit, because in New Zealand, there's no one has COVID. So if you said, that person died of COVID, it's like, well, hang on a minute, nobody's got COVID, so we can't do that right now, right? That's the problem with this fiddling of stats. They fiddled it so much that they're saying, well, China are saying, well, you know, why aren't you blaming China? This is the conservatives in China who don't like what President Xi is doing in their own country. And they're saying, well, why don't you do something? Why isn't America doing something right now? And it's like, well, they can't. They have these riots going on right now. It's a civil war there kind of thing with Antifa. And they're saying, well, this Antifa looks like the same thing that happened with Mayo. It's the same kind of process that you're going through. It's kind of like a communist process that you're doing right now. Antifa flag symbol is the same as the Nazi symbol, and there's just changing of the words, kind of. It's still anti-fascist kind of thing, and it's the same logo. Ukraine, when it was released from Russia, had guys running around with Nazi emblems on them, and it was on the news. And people are saying, well, that's fake news. It's like, well, no, I saw it on the news. It's true. But, you know, people don't want to accept the truth anymore because we've been lied to. I mean, people in New Zealand, you know what they're saying about Trump? They're saying that Trump is involved in this Epstein Island thing. And they said, well, where's the proof? And there was proof. I think Tim Paul put out the proof. I can't find the video of it. Can't find the video because this is how the leftists think. It's like, well, where's the proof that Trump wasn't involved? Because this girl, Julia Roberts, has indicated that he didn't do anything and he wasn't involved. And it was Bill Clinton with his two younger girls that was there. Al Gore was mentioned. Al Gore. Wow. That would open up a can of worms. Al Gore is the god of science. You know how I'm attacking science all the time. Al Gore is the god of science, the god of climate change, the man who wrote the book of climate change, the man who created money going to him, going to Paris Accord, the guy who's in all our kids' science books. Al Gore was going to Epstein Island, right? So was Bill. So was a bunch of people. So we don't know what's happening there. We've got this Maxwell thing, and she turned up on a screen, and you know, we don't know if there's any justice anymore. You're talking about people getting their hopes up because people said to me, don't worry, we've got a good team of people going to investigate the World Health Organization. I'm from New Zealand. I go, yay! And then they said, then I looked it up, Helen Clark. What? No! And then I look up the person that's working with her, accused of corruption, former leader of Liberia, also at United Nations. No! Please, no! These people can't be leading it. It's a United Nations effort. So the United Nations is investigating World Health Organization. What can go wrong? World Health Organization was under the directive from United Nations. So this is their kind of like internal department that went wrong, that spread a disease that went wrong, corona planes. They didn't stop China from the military games going out and spreading the disease to the world. They kept it going into the Rockefeller files. They're not going to investigate those Rockefeller files, that's for sure. The Rockefeller files dictated what to do in the COVID virus. They dictated to wait till the planes had spread the virus first and then do something. And so that's what happened. Following the Rockefeller file, PDF file. That came out later. Whether or not it's a CIA plant, we don't know. We don't know anything, but we do know with the Rockefeller Foundation file, you can look that up, and it talks about tracing the vaccine. When you give us the vaccine, get people used to doing lockdowns. Well, it didn't say that in that. It did talk about the COVID virus. So it talked about the COVID virus and tracing, being able to measure the heart rate and the temperature, which makes you a cyborg, kind of like the Chinese kids right now, where they have a monitor that goes over their heads when they're studying at school, because the kids study for 12 hours. Then they go home, do their homework, and come back to school the next day. I don't know if it's 7 days a week. Hopefully it's just 5. And they've got these monitors on the head. So if they don't study, we're going to tell mum. We're going to tell mum on you. Well, probably the computer just tells the computer and mum's computer at home on their laptop, your child is not focusing right now for the last hour. Looks like he's falling asleep. What did you do? Did he not sleep when he got home? Well, he had homework for 5 hours. And then he had sleep for 6 hours. And then he came back to school again. So, what are we doing to our children? I mean, seriously? This is how you're treating children now? In Singapore, same kind of thing. Education's so important to get these rich jobs. Is it really worth it? For me, you know, why are you having children if you're going to put your kids through that? What is the point if kids can't play in the street, kick a ball, that kind of thing? If kids can't grow up normally, they're so busy trying to get that good career, create a future for themselves, and don't even know how to have a childhood. So what happens when people don't have a childhood? I have no idea what happens, hey? But they seem to be a decent people. They seem to focus down, do the work. And look at China. I mean, they're not that rich at the moment. I mean, they have a lot of poverty in their own country. They have ghost cities falling down, and they have people trying to escape, people trying to do their education overseas. And the problem is, when you're into that 12 hours education, what are you going to do to us? Well, it's easy here, man. You go to school for 6 hours, you have a lunch break for an hour, you have morning tea and afternoon tea. You're only studying for 4 hours. I can get that kid when he comes home. He's going to study for another 4 hours, and he's going to be ahead of the whole school. The Chinese are enjoying themselves. But they're bringing their problems here. They're bringing the extra education, the extra pressure here. They're not doing the 12 hours, but they're doing more. So they're still pushing the kids, and then they push the pressure on the Western kids to catch up. Whoa, we've got to keep up with that Chinese kid now. So, whoa, you better come home and study for 2 to 3 hours every day. Where you didn't need to study before. Now you do, because these kids are coming from here. And you see, the problem here is when you start disadvantaging people in one country. So what it should be is a 6-hour education everywhere in the world. Boom, over. No arguments, 6 hours. No homework. Nothing. Be a kid. Enjoy your life. You want to study, start getting serious. 14 years old, that kind of thing, to 18. Then again, you've got to have to enjoy the teenage years of rebelling and that kind of thing. Do your sports, do your stuff, grow up as a normal human being. That's what they enjoy watching the movies because they don't have what we have here. They don't have cliques in school, that kind of thing. They just have the smart kids and the kids that study really, really hard, and the smart kids that don't have to study as hard as everybody else. And it's crazy. It's just, we live in this education nightmare. And so we'll get back to World Health Organization because, whoa, I got off topic there. So World Health Organization, run by the former leaders of Liberia and New Zealand. Can we expect much from this? No. Not when they're saying they want to train people in COVID responses, response to diseases that since the year 1918, they can't understand why these viruses haven't gone viral till now. It's like, well, it's a fake virus. That's why you've faked the whole thing up. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, you've had the Black Plague, that kind of thing. But I think that they were plagues poured out of the Bible on the earth where a third of the people had to die. That kind of thing. You can't really use that virus as an explanation. These things happen for a reason. Black Plague had a prophecy in the Bible. It was to get mankind back on track, mankind back on focusing on who the real maker of the world is. God! We have a real God up there. You know, Bible. And it's like, well, God's not real. Yes, he is. It's a factual document. The Bible's a factual document. Enoch Scrolls backed it up. You think, well, God killed a lot of people. Yeah, he did. Nephilim, right? And the Nephilim's probably infected the whole of humanity. Probably why Jesus had to come 2,000 years ago, because they had no control over the infected DNA. So now you need Jesus, that kind of thing. You're not pure human anymore. And you also need him to die for the sins, because we're sinful in nature, aren't we? We're very sinful. So, you know, we are not perfect. And we have Christians who believe that they are perfect, and Christians that are quite upfront about not being perfect. I don't quite see myself as a Christian, but a man of God, and do my best. Because at the end of the day, you know, your sins are going to catch up with you, and then people learn what your sins are, and it's like, oh, did you do that? Oh, I can't believe it. Anyway, thanks all. Thanks for subscribing. Remember to ring the bell. But I was going to say ring the bell, but if you don't want to, that's fine. But, you know, I need subscribers. I need to get to 1K. And hopefully I can become monetized. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? Thanks all.